we went over. Then we'd kind of planned to take a trip before Barbara was born, but when she was 2 years old, almost two, she wasn't two till January, and we went Thanksgiving. We went to see Marie and Shirley at Warrenton, Oregon. That was on the beach. It was kind of along the Columbia River where the Columbia went into the ocean. And the rest of Earl's family, his mother and the other girls, no one was married but Marie and Shirley. But no one was engaged to Glenn at that time, and the girls were in school in Portland. But they had school in Portland or Linville, I knew Linville. And we went down on the beach one night to dig clams. So we did, and finally it got late, and we had a fire on the beach, and I don't know, I can't remember why, but Marie stood Barbara up on a log. Must have been a pretty good sized log because it was pretty little. She says, "Sing, Barbara," and Barbara says, "What shall I sing with her?" And so I would tell her, and she sang song after song there on the beach there by the campfire. Ruth was so impressed that she wanted to sing at church the next day. That was Saturday night. She wanted to sing at church the next day. And so I got the girls all fixed up just as cute as I could.
Really had some cute dresses.
Yeah, well, they had
ruffles.
What they are, but they were fixed up cute to stand up and sing. And they stood up to sing and throws both of them. I guess it was a strange audience, and they didn't know what to do. They couldn't sing at all. We just had to take them down. But that was the only time that ever happened. They always sang wherever. We had them one time, they were singing a Christmas program, and they was going to have a little play there on the platform. We had a little table set with dishes and all that kind of thing. So Jean and Barbara were standing in front of that. Needless to say, Barbara couldn't look at the audience at all. She kept turning around, and Jean kept trying to straighten her out, and she had her arm around her, trying to hold her, looking at the audience, and the audience went into hysterics, or it was over with. I remember seeing a couple laughing and bending clear down. They were laughing so hard they couldn't sit up, hardly. But I guess they got through the song. I can't remember, but it was quite a task. Jean stayed serious, but Barbara, of course, had to see
what's going on behind it.
She had, somebody said afterwards, that was just before Christmas, that paper. Somebody came to me and said, "I hope she's getting a set of dishes for Christmas." And so, of course, she had to get them.
You didn't tell about how we graduated from the Model T to the Model A. That's where we went on a trip.
That's right. We had this Model T Ford. Well, when we married, we went on our honeymoon. We bought it before we were married. We went on our honeymoon with it, and we used it up until Barbara was about 2, and we had curtains on that fastened down, and the Model T was noisy, and you got all the noise back in the car because you couldn't even shut the windows because it had curtains. And so when she was about 2, I don't know how we did it, but we seemed to really scrape up enough money to buy a Model A. Oh,
it was a sedan.
Yeah, it was sedan.
Glass windows, rolled up and down.
Yeah. So, we thought we had
2-door.
Yeah. So we went to Twin one night. I don't know, to the show or what. That was we were celebrating the new car. So I suppose we went to Twin and went to the show because that was not unusual days. And I remember coming back, I had to sit in the back seat with the children because they were sleepy. And the wonder of wonders, we could talk to each other with me sitting in the back seat. I never could have done that in a Model T. And the back seat was warm, and the children could sleep, and we didn't have to wrap them in a lot of blankets either. I thought that was wonderful.
That's what we took our trip to Portland in.
Yeah, Barbara had to stand up.
When we got going after we got the Model A, we decided to take a trip. Of course, you always do when you get a new car. So we decided to go to Portland and over to Warrenton. And kids were excited, and of course we were too. But anyway, after we got started, we was always coming into Boise. Barbara says, "Are we there? Are we there yet?" And I said, "Oh my goodness, we haven't even started." Every town we'd come to, she'd think it was Portland. And he was anxious to get there, I guess. It was getting monotonous driving. And so we finally did get to Portland. And boy, I'll tell you, we had never been I had never driven in traffic before. And it wasn't bad compared to what it is now, but it was pretty bad. I had quite a time watching stoplights and staying in the right lane. And when we got to the bridge, well, I had to cross the Willamette River, and I had to stop real quick. Of course, Barbara was standing up beside us in the front seat, and of course, she slammed against the dashboard. And did she get a bloody nose?
Pretty well, yeah, I think so.
Something like that. Anyway,
They had him down after that.
we had quite a time keeping the kids sitting down. We said, "Got to sit down." And we visited a while there with Mother, and then went on to Warrington, where Bree and Shirley lived. That was when we went to the beach and dug clams, and had that. Well, that was when Barbara sang for the crowd there on the stump for, I believe it was the big stump. Okay.
Jean was a lover of kittens. Always a lover of kittens. She always had a cat. She got scratched many a time for trying to tame somebody's stray cat. But one day, I knew she was going down to play with the kittens. Barbara's a baby, and so I was busy in the house. And all of a sudden, I heard the horses coming. Earl, when he put the horses in the barn.
I had to go out to the pasture and round them up. They always came on a dead run to the house, into the barn.
And I knew Jean was in the barn. It scared me to death. I started running. And by the time I got to the barn, she came out and she was talking about the horses stepping or something. She was crying and talking about the horses. Anyway, she wasn't hurt. But
we never did know how she got back through those horses and out the barn.
Because the horses
she was up close to the manger.
Yeah.
That's where the kittens were.
Yeah. She would always go where the kittens were. Kittens were her.
Yeah, she liked cats.
She liked kittens a lot.
Okay.
One day when Barbara wasn't very old, she wasn't 18 months old yet, I don't believe. She was going faster, and I suppose she needed to go, and she fell down. And Earl came along about that time, and he said, "What, did you fall down?" She said, "Yeah, I fell down and come boom." And we always remembered that. It sounded so cute at that age.
When Jean became 6 years old, or did she start earlier?
I said, "Well,
6 years old. She started to school at Fairview. And, of course, Fairview was about 1.5 miles from here. And we had to take her. We took her the first day. And then any time that was bad weather, we'd take her. But otherwise, she walked to school. And I guess the first time I know that I Seems like I remember taking her and hating to leave her there because it seemed so uh, like I was deserting her.
Yeah. I took her. I took her the first day. I'm almost sure.
Yeah.
And I remember how hard it was to leave her there. But Barbara was a baby, and
Yeah.
I had to take her home. Barbara would have gladly stayed and had a good time, but
When Barbara was
5.
5, she started to school. And I believe that in the meantime, we had bought a pony for Jane to ride to school. And when Barbara started, well, they both rode the horse. Jane always rode in front, Barbara in the back. And they used to race with the Barrier Boys. The Barrier Boys had a white horse, and Beverly, Jane and Barbara's horse was black, just a little pony. They used to race, going to school and coming home. And one time, Mrs. Harding called up Lois and said, "You know what those kids are doing? They're racing on those horses," and he says they might get hurt. So we told them they better not do that. Anyway, Barbara got kind of tired of riding on the back. She wasn't for that. Some of the kids had bicycles, and she thought it'd be great to have a bicycle. She could ride on the bicycle, and Beverly, I keep saying Beverly, and Jean on the horse. And she come up with the idea that she could hang on to the horse's tail and she wouldn't have to pedal. So that's the way they went down the road on a dead run, was Barbara on the bicycle and just a riding free. Well, they had great times. I remember that one winter, the snow was so deep that it snowed in the day, wasn't
It
it?
snowed in the day.
Yeah, and the teacher decided to send them home. And how did we know that they were coming home?
Werner Harding saw them.
Yeah.
She saw the girls start. She says, "I think they're starting through the field." And I said, "Jean is getting off and walking." And Earl better, so Earl rushed out and got Clear Star, and I think he hopped over the fences partly to get him there, but he went to the field and picked him up and took Barbara behind him, and Jean rode the horse, and he led the horse home that way. But they would have frozen to death. But Earl would have planning to get him when school was out, but she turned the school out about 2:00, and Earl wasn't ready for it. So we were grateful to be told. We have some close calls sometimes, it seems like, because they would have frozen when they got home.
The snow was real deep. I remember it was in the road. It was very deep because the horse had quite a time walking. When Jean and Barbara were, how old were they when we used to go to those parties?
Well, they were at 7 and 8, 7 and 9, something like
7
that.
and 9, about, yeah. We had a bunch of young people that got started to play in pinochle, and we'd have parties at different houses. So we thought we had to go and take kids along. We'd take them along, and first I'd go out in the car and make a bed in the back.
Use the Davenport mattress.
Use the Davenport mattress, yeah. I made a bed, put covers in there and everything, and they were to go there and we'll sleep while we was playing cards. And afterwards, we found out that they didn't do too much sleeping. And then get up after we got in there and peek in the window to see what we was doing and run around the house, just have a great time.
They'd see us stand up as we were coming out to see how they were. So they'd run real quick and get into the car and
Act asleep.
and act like they were asleep. So they were just doing fine, and we'd go back in perfectly happy. And didn't know all of the things that were going on.
And when they saw us putting on our coats, why, they'd get back in bed. Or in the bed in the car.
We thought this snuff all the time.
Oh, shoot.
We had only known.
All right.
It's when June and Barbara were in the same room in school. We only had 2 rooms, and first room was the first 4 grades, but they were both in the upper grades this time. There's one teacher that they had, I believe it was Neil Hamby at that time, and they were planning a picnic or some kind of a dinner somewhere. And they said, well, who will bring a cake? Well, they said, Barbara's hand would go right straight up. And with others. And Georgina looked at her, and Grange would go down. But Barbara volunteered for everything, and finally Jean didn't let Barbara volunteer for too much because she'd keep looking at her, and her head would have to go down. But Barbara was always the enthusiastic one to do everything. All the kids' life, I was very careful to run from all the diseases that they had. And there weren't many diseases in the school up to that time. And then the whooping cough went around. They didn't have whooping cough shots very much then, and none of us were very familiar with them. And Jean got the whooping cough. I believe she got it before Barbara, but Barbara didn't have it very hard. But Jean had it awfully hard. She was 9 years old.
9 years old.
Yes. And it's spring, towards spring, and she had it awfully hard. She had to keep her out of school. And Barbara hardly had it at all. And then towards spring, the mumps were around. By the time school was out, the mumps were around it. Before she was ridden over the whooping cough, she got the mumps. And she didn't seem to have them awfully hard. The mumps didn't seem to hurt her bad, but she had them. And then that summer, she all of a sudden commenced to jerk, and we didn't know what the trouble was. And we took her to the doctor, and he said she had St. Vitus dance. They don't call it that now. They have another name for it. And he gave her medicine for it, but it didn't help a bit. And she kept getting worse and worse till she couldn't walk straight. She couldn't hold anything hardly. So we took her to...
You heard about this swine?
Yeah, we heard about this Dr. Swine that just really helped and everything.
It was over by Eden.
Yeah. So you'd have to get there early, so we'd get up early and 2 or 4 in the morning and start driving over there to be there by daylight. So we'd be the first one there because so many people came to, and the yard was full of people that came for treatments. And he looked at Jean and gave her a treatment, and he said, oh, we'll have her well with 2 treatments. Well, she had 8 treatments. That was going, we went twice a week, didn't we?
So.
And okay. But it was giving her 2 a week. And after she had about 8, he said, why don't you take her to the hot springs? Well, we were familiar with the hot springs. We'd gone there for many things. The folks have gone, and we'd all gone for a lot of things. So
that's the hot springs over. It's towards the base.
They call it Magic Hot Springs.
Yeah, it was Magic Hot Springs.
They had little cabins over there that you lived in, and then you took baths. Well, we took her over there, and the first treatment I took her in, she fainted. So guy Stoddard, who was a miracle man about those springs. He knew how to run them.
She went in too fast.
Yeah. So
The
he
water is
told me
quite
to
hot.
have her take orange juice before she went in. So he took her in once. I had to put a swimsuit on her, and he showed her how to do it. So we did that. After she took the first bath and he took her in, he said, "Now I want you to keep her here 10 days. Don't go home. Keep her here 10 days. Well, that was kind of a hardship on her. He was farming and everything. But he managed to get up to bring us groceries, and he'd come up on Sunday and bring us extra things to eat. But we stayed the 10 days. And on the 10th day, I was visiting with the neighbors on the porch of their cabin, and every day after dinner, she took a nap. And we would try to get her, keep her down for 2 hours to rest. And she took a nap, but she didn't sleep this day. She got up and put a clean dress on, and she came toward us, and she walked straight without one jerk. She walked right straight to us, and that was the 10th day, like he told us. So we told Mr. Stoddard, and he said, "Go home." And we go home for about a month and bring her back for a few more days. And we did that. And she got pretty good. I believe she was able to go to school that year, wasn't she?
I think so.
She had missed a lot before.
I know that before he took her over there, had to feed her practically at the table, because she would try to take something to her mouth, and she would miss her mouth and
Her hand
spill
would
it.
jerk.
Jerk, yeah. And I used to help her eat.
And while we were there, I slept with her. I think we had 2 beds in our cabin, and I slept with her, and in the night she'd get to jerking, and I would rub her. I would rub her till she would stop and go back to sleep. But even though she was sick, the kids had fun. There were lots of people up there, and there were a lot of kids, and they really played and had a lot of fun. And she ran around more and more. I think she improved all the time. She'd run around. She could run. She might not be able to walk, but she could run. And they had a wonderful time, the kids did. Barbara tried to help me so much. I remember one time somebody came in to me. I'd put some sheets to soaking because they'd sweat so in the sheets. I had to wash them off, and I had to put some sheets to soak, and I was going down to wash them. Somebody came in and she said, "Can Barbara wash those sheets?" And I said, "No." And I looked down, and there she was. She was down by the wash house, she was 8 years old, but she was washing those sheets at the big bend, scrubbing them. But she helped me all she could. It was awful cute, but it looked like I was a child abuser. Have her to that.
One thing about Barbara, you should tell that we'd tell Jean to do something. Jean was kind of slow gear. Barbara would get it done. She'd jump into it and do it before Jean could even get started. She'd have it done before Jean would have a chance.
And Jean got really impatient with that a lot of times. But that's the way they were.
Yeah, they're just 2 different personalities.
Then after that, Jean started school. And that winter, she had the measles. It was that winter she had the measles, and she had them hard. She would get out of her head. She had the measles so hard. And it was on Christmas Day that she had the measles. And here we were at the darkened house, and that much Christmas cheer. And then toward spring, or that year, I have forgotten just what year. Toward spring, in the summer, she got sick again. In the summer, I guess. And there was a spot that came over her face.
On her cheek.
on her cheek. It turned kind of purple, and that spread real rapidly. Her eyes swelled shut. Her
Yeah,
lips
but
were
wait, we went to the doctor. We didn't know it was a matter.
Yeah, we went to
And he said, erysipelas.
we had to call him out. She got bad so fast. We had to
Yeah.
call him to the house. And he looked at her and he said, erysipelas, says that's something my sister used to have every year. But her eyes swelled shut. We had to put cotton pieces over her eyes, kind of, to, and her whole head swelled up. Her whole head, eyes and ears and everything. Her lips were swelled until they were grotesque.
Yeah.
And he gave us stuff to put on her and told us what to do. And
It's kind of a butt stuff.
yeah, it was a kind of a awful looking stuff they had to put on her.
All over the face.
And, you know, cases like that they put in hospital these days. I'm surprised they didn't even consider putting her in hospital.
No.
They didn't do that. We took care of her. And she finally got over it. The swelling went down as slowly as it come up. Now these days, they didn't have penicillin. Penicillin would have knocked that.
But she had such high fever that she lost all her hair.
Well, it was that erysipelas went into her head, it seemed.
Sure.
And it went to her head. And she lost every bit till we're almost bald-headed.
She was practically bald.
And then her hair came in fast. I can't remember. I don't remember we sent her to school, did we? But that was in the spring. I believe that was before summer. That was in the spring. She had that. And then she wore a little hat wherever she went in place. When her hair came in, it was just ringlets all over her head. And it stayed curly, and it was like a gold.
Gold blonde.
Gold, and it was curly. And people said the most beautiful hair they ever saw when it came in, and she was real proud of it and took care of it. Then she had, let's see, I bet she had something that we thought was scarlet fever before she had that erysipelas. Because she had two sicknesses there. And before she got that, she had we thought it was scarlet fever, and they thought it had caused that to go on because it would follow some kind of an illness.
Oh.
But whether it was a bad case of the flu, we didn't know. But whatever she had those days, she had so very hard. I wished many times I'd had nurses training. I needed it very badly. Then, I believe it was when she was 10.
Broke her arm at school, you remember?
But before that, when she was 10, by her teacher, Virginia Hobson, and a bunch of them had gone to the hot springs. People went there often just on vacation. And they'd take bears to help their health off. So she was up there, and she said she had her niece with her when Jean couldn't stay with them, and she did. They had a lot of fun swimming and praying. And then it was, seemed as though something followed that when she had the next winter. Or it was next winter she was in school. It was muddy. It must have been towards spring because it was muddy, and there was a boy that kind of liked her, and I guess that was the reason.
Playing games and
they were playing games.
chased.
Yeah, well, he came around and tagged her, especially on purpose, and she went after him. And
Around the corner of the schoolhouse and slipped.
And broke her arm. So they took her to the doctor, and then called me and told me they'd take her to the doctor. And I got in there, and they hadn't said it yet. She was patiently sitting there with her phone on the table. The doctor said it, but he took her to the hospital. So we went to the hospital. He said he'd have to set it there. I bet she spent the night there. Yeah, she spent the night in the hospital. But it was after that, I don't know, that took her down for some reason or other. She had gotten her arm out of the cast and was a little bit crooked, came out of the cast. And doing pretty good, and then she got sick again. And I took her to Dr. Smythe that time. It got to be a habit. And he said she's running a high fever. And so we brought her home, and she was quite sick the next day. And so we took her to the doctor, and the doctor said, looks like typhoid, and he told us typhoid fever. We brought her home and did the best we could, and finally got Bertha McCauley, who had nurses training, to come help us with her. But I don't remember how long she was sick. But Reverend Berg and his wife came out to see her, and we were kind of, it'd be nice for her to go to camp and get out, because she loved the mountains and everything. If she could go to camp, plus she could build up strength. We was thinking how we could help her, and Bertha went in and she said, fix some jars and hot water, and I went in and she was in a coma. So we did that. We put warm jars around her, try to bring her to, but we called the doctor, and we all worked as hard as we could work, and we called the doctor, and before he got there, she quit breathing. And he gave her a shot to try to revive her, and she didn't ever revive. She was 13 at this time. This was 20th of June, 1938. She was born in March the 15th, 1925. And the day we buried her, it was a beautiful day, very beautiful day. I remember going through town, going to the funeral, and people were walking around doing things as normal as I thought were. I didn't see how anybody could. I thought everything should stand still because the worst thing in the world had happened to us.
This is some time later. We just couldn't carry on at that time. So Lois will continue where she left off.
There's always some nice things and never bad things because our family came. Rose's mother, Mother Nelson, Marie's sister and husband, Shirley, and their two children, Doug and Phyllis, came for the funeral, and then Clarence and Jesse came. And there's always just a few things you remember, but I remember as I was lying on the bed, which they kept me doing, Clarence came and knelt down beside me, and the thing he said, it's a verse from the Bible, I guess, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. And I did still remember that. Then later, the day that she died, I remember Hazel, all the family had gathered there, of course, around, and Hazel came to the door and looked at me, and she said, there's one nice thing about losing a child or a baby, but when you get to heaven, there's still a child. They aren't doing it. And that was nice. But there was another thing that the Woods came to us. Now, they weren't our belief, but it seemed to comfort us. They said, everybody has a mission in life. Some people it take 50 or 70 or 80 years to perform. But she had performed her mission in 13 years. Maybe I didn't believe, but it comforted us.
I wanted to say something about the funeral. I don't believe that I ever, before or since, saw as many flowers that were there at the funeral. People really turned out and they crowded the church more than It had been crowded, I think.
Did you notice that they had put that screen across the front? There was a screen that kind of, and they had it filled with bouquets. So there was a screen of flowers at the back of the casket across the front of the church. And many people brought bouquets from home, which they don't do anymore, but they did then. And everybody brought a bouquet, it seemed like, that came and put this bouquet in this screen, besides the flowers that were in vases and plants, whatever.
We felt so good because it's something that Jean always loved, flowers.
After that one time, Mary knew we went. Phil came shooting the hills, and she picked wildflowers. She knew Jane liked them. She picked wildflowers and came and put them on her grave. I thought that was kind of nice. Then the girls that Jane's age in her class were flower bearers, and they all carried flowers out. And as they brought the casket out, they stood on either side with their flowers in their arms. There were about 6 or 8 girls, and I don't remember how many, but 6 or 8, and made it very beautiful.
At the time Jean died, she had golden curls. After having erysipelas, her hair came in curly, and it was the most beautiful hair. I know there was people in the church that said they sat behind her just to look at her pretty hair. It was beautiful.
She was a lover of kittens also, I'd like to say. And she had a white kitten that made her head kittens. And those were her pride and joy. And the day she died, she was able to hold a kitten in her arms. I brought it into her.
She also was a lover of beautiful sunsets. Every now and then she'd call, ask us to come out and see the beautiful sunset.
I always remember that I dropped anything when she wanted to see the sunset and went with her to see it. And when that song came out, Beyond the Sunset, that's all it reminded me of, was looking at the sunset with Jane.
It was one of the hardest times in our lives.
And then to add to this great sorrow, a few months later, before Beverly was born, Danny got
That's Ruth's.
Ruth's little boy, Danny, Ruth and Marcia's little boy, Danny.
Your only child.
It was Marcia's only child.
Yeah.
Got a sore on his lip, I believe, and not having penicillin.
Gumboil, wasn't it?
Gumboil, and it went to his brain and killed him. But he was only 5. And he'd just gone to school a little while when this happened. And it seemed as though that Ruth and us close together because we had we'd always been close anyway, but we had each other to lean on at that time. And then
That time was Beverly born.
Benny was born November the 22nd at 2:38. After the pain started, we were rushed through the house from the speed of 80 miles an hour, I think, because the pains were coming fast. And then along the way, we rode to herd of cattle. And to get through those, we got there in time. And I think she was born within 20 minutes after we got to the hospital. Okay. After I was in my room, they brought Beverly in for us to see. And she was we thought, very beautiful baby. She opened her eyes and looked up at her daddy, and he fell in love right then.
Coming when she did, she was almost what you'd call a plaything. We had more fun with her and showing her off and everything like that. We couldn't help but spoiler. And at that time, so afterwards, I was wondering if she'd ever amount to anything, because she didn't ever have to do anything. We seemed to do everything for her, but she sure turned out different. And we were certainly badly mistaken, because she can do anything she starts out to do now. Very efficient.
Then when she was 3.5 years old, she had a little brother, our first son. We were very glad to have a son. He was born June 25th, 1942, at the Dillon Hospital. They were saving gas in those days, so we couldn't go to the Twin Falls Hospital, and they started the Neil Buell Hospital. This is Giesington. That's where he was born.
I might tell. My mother was here staying with us at the time that when Lois went to the hospital. And they called up from the hospital, and she answered the phone, and they told her that we had a son. And so she called me in and told me, "Earl, you've got a son." And I said, "A son? Are you real sure about that?" She says, "Well, I don't know now." She says, "I'll call him back." So she called him back, and they said, "Sure enough, it's a boy." So, you see, we'd had 3 girls, and to have a boy, that was quite unusual. But we were really happy.
I found out there was a lot of difference in having a little boy than little girls. A little boy was like different things. Showed it right at the beginning, like different things, and I could do different things. And when he got older, he always had to go out outside and play. Even though it was snowing or whatever, he had to go outside, and he'd ride his tricycle all over the country. One way he was different was that he ate more right in the beginning when he was in the hospital. He cried and cried and cried after he'd had his body. So they gave him another body, a 3.5 more ounces, and he drank it up and went to sleep. But he always enjoyed eating more than the girls had. Then,
And he got a little older,
he,
he helped you in the garden.
yes,
He was
always still interested in the garden. For the time he was 3 years old, he wanted to help plant the garden. And if I didn't get out there on time, he sure told me. Everyone, after the gardening grew, he'd run in and tell me everything that was coming up and anything that was blooming, and he wore paths down each row, taking note of everything in the garden. And he would help in every way, and always happy to be out there.
When he got a little older, why, they used to like to go down in the pasture. We had a big willow down there. And he'd go down there and kind of build a stockade around that thing. And the one or 2 nights he went down there and took his sleeping bag, and the dog went with him. He cooked, what was it he cooked? Potatoes in a blanket, corn, I believe, in it.
He wrapped them in aluminum foil.
Yeah.
Potato. He'd build a hole, have a fire. Then underneath he'd wrap the potatoes and carrots and stuff in aluminum foil and put it underneath where the fire was.
He'd stay there all night by himself, the dog, at his feet. We kind of was amazed that he wouldn't be scared and come tearing back to the house, but he didn't.
I can't say I slept too good, though, while he was down there. Then when Rich was around 3 years old, Barbara, who by that time was 19, I guess, then Barbara married Von Lee Hopkins, on August 17th, 45, was it? Yes, it was. 45? 46. 1946. And then in a year, what was, and the next year in July the 29th, they had a son, Craig Allen Hopkins, who was just 5 years younger than Rich. So he felt like just an extension of our own family and always acted like it was part of our family. I enjoyed him very much. Then 11 months later, Peggy Jean was born. And about that time, Darwin Vaughn moved to California. It was at Fort
Ord.
Vaughn joined the army and down there. She was shy. Then the next winter, they came up for Christmas. Well, Barbara couldn't go when Vaughn did, so we took Barbara and Craig and Peggy down to Vaughn. And Peggy was only about 5 weeks old. Maybe she was 4 weeks old. And the next winter, at Christmas time, they came up for Christmas. And Peggy got sick while they were here, got pneumonia. And so when they had to go back, why, we kept her. And that was the year the snow was so deep. We said we'd bring her to them when she got well enough to travel. That was the winter of 48 and 49 when the snow was so deep. And we couldn't take her down till, I think it was nearly the last of February. But they got the snow cleared out of the roads all the way. And we surprised Barbara. I guess we shouldn't have done it. We should have told her. But anyway, we surprised her. And Earl carried Peggy up to carried her to the door. Barbara looked at Peggy and grabbed her and screamed and ran to the bedroom and cried. She was so happy to see her.
How long was she with us?
From Christmas till February.
Yeah.
She was there. And we had so much fun with her that winter. I was snowed in, so I had Peggy to play with. So I had a great time.
I might as well tell about when the kids were quite small. I got, Harry McCauley and I used to go hunting quite a bit together. One time we went out to Lily Great and crawled down in the canyon, and we walked way down the canyon hunting ducks. And we got down there and it started getting dusk, and we kept looking at the canyon wall to see a place we could crawl out. And it was all just straight up and down. But I think we finally found a place just as it got dark. And we got up on top of on top, and we started walking back towards the car. It was so dark that you couldn't tell. You couldn't see anything. And we was afraid that we'd accidentally walk back into the canyon, that we walked out quite a ways into the sagebrush. We could see the lights of Castle Ford. So we knew we knew about where we was. We finally got back to the car. The women were wondering where in the dickens we was. I don't know what time of night it was. Do you remember?
It was 10, 11 o'clock.
Yeah, it was pretty late. But that was one of our wild goose chases. Anyway, later on, we got started to hunting deer. And we went to first deer I ever killed. We went up to Rocky Bar. Harry and I did. We went up at night and got up in the morning and went out. And finally, he killed one and I killed one. And we started packing them out. And we put them on a cut a long stick. And said we'll pack out the biggest one first, and mine was pretty good size. I think it weighed 207 pounds dressed. But anyway, we put it on the stick. And I stood up with my end, and Harry stood up with his. They just folded up like an accordion. He couldn't stand up and hold it and walk. So we decided to cut it in two. And he took half and I took, no, he took half of his deer and I took half of mine. And we went to pack those to the car and then went back after the rest of them. That was our first deer hunt. But we got the fever, and ever after that seemed like we'd figured out a trip to go to the Selway. We used to hire a packer to take us in way back into the back country. And it would take a couple of days to get in there. And of course, we was in there at where there wasn't anybody else that made good honey. We did that every fall. Lois said, she says, I believe you live from one year to the next just to go hunting. And it almost was that way. But seemed like it was something that had to be done. Had to take care of those deer. And I don't know, went quite a few times that way. One time, I think the last time we went hunting, Roland and, no, Harry and I and Tommy. Tommy Richmond was a good friend of ours, and he always went with us. And we were hunting in different places. We started home and we said, well, we'll go up this creek. We went up there about 2 or 3 miles, parked. We said we'd give her one more shot. We hadn't got any deer yet. And Harry says, I'll go this way. And I said, well, I'll go that way. So we wouldn't be hunting in the same territory. Tommy says, well, he says, I'll just stay around camp. I won't go right there. So we all went out, and I came back to camp. But must have been an hour and a half. And I looked over there, and Tommy was laying down on the ground, and he had started a fire. The fire was just smoking. I mean, the wood was just smoking. And I hollered at him. There was snow on the ground, and I hollered at him and said, Tommy, you shouldn't do that. And he didn't respond. I got over to him, and I found out he was dead. He'd had a heart attack and just fell over on his face. So I covered him up with a canvas we had. Hollered my head off, trying to get hold of Harry. I don't know where he was. He never did hear me. Anyway, hollered and hollered. Finally, I decided I had to do something about it. So I wrote a note, put it on the pickup, tell Harry where I was. And I took the pickup. No, I didn't put it on the. I put the note someplace where Harry would see it, because I had to take the pickup. But luckily, we had hid the keys on the front tire so that if anybody got back, it was a wonderful thing we did, because I got into the pickup and drove down to the ranger station, which was about 5 or 6 miles. And he tried to call Chalice on the short wave, and had an awful time getting through. He finally got through. First tried the telephone, but somebody had shot some insulators off the line and couldn't get through on that. He got through on the short wave. Anyway, they the sheriff came and asked me a lot of questions, and then they took the body into Chalice, and Harry and I came home. It was a very sad trip. It sure took the hunt out of me. I never did do any more hunting after that much.
I wonder, back to our family story. In the meantime, Barbara and Vaughn had moved back to Buell. He's been discharged from the Army. They moved back to Buell. And then Nancy was born soon after they moved back. That in the meantime, Earl was showing sickness. We knew that he wasn't well. And so the doctor had said, go get x-rays. So he went and got x-rays, and it looked pretty bad. And then we went to, somebody wanted us to go see a doctor in Salt Lake. They went to,
This is the end of the recording. It sounds like there might be more, and as I find more, I will create a video to finish this off.